The Houston Texans just flipped their entire offseason upside down, and almost nobody saw it coming. One move sent a shock through the roster. Another quietly changed the identity of the offense. And suddenly, the entire plan around C.J. Stroud looks different. What seemed like a calm build around a young quarterback turned into a rapid shift that forced the front office to rethink everything. And the strange part is, this did not happen over weeks or months. It happened in a single day that may end up shaping the future of the franchise. First came the decision involving Titus Howard, a veteran lineman who had been part of the Texans' offensive front for years. Houston moved him in a trade to the Cleveland Browns, and just like that, a stable piece of protection for C.J. Stroud was gone. Then the next twist arrived when the Texans brought in running back David Montgomery, a powerful runner who instantly adds a new dimension to the offense alongside Woody Marks. Now the backfield suddenly feels deeper and more physical, but the offensive line protecting the young quarterback is facing new questions. And when a team builds around a rising passer like C.J. Stroud, every decision around that protection becomes critical. But here's the part nobody is talking about enough. While the offense is shifting, the defense under DeMeco Ryans is still one of the most exciting units in football. Players like Derek Stingley, Jalen Pitre, Kamari Lassiter, and Kalen Bullock have already created a dangerous secondary that can challenge any offense in the league. That means the Texans are sitting in a strange place right now, strong in some areas, suddenly thin in others, and holding a draft that could change everything. Because once Titus Howard left Houston, it quietly pushed the Texans toward one unavoidable question. How do you rebuild the offensive line fast enough to protect C.J. Stroud before the next season begins? But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Texans and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. The Houston Texans did not just move a player when they sent Titus Howard to Cleveland. They opened a hole that suddenly changed the entire direction of their draft board. That is the part that caught many fans off guard. A team that already had questions on the offensive line willingly removed one of its most experienced pieces, which means the front office, led by Nick Caserio, is clearly planning something bigger behind the scenes. When a team building around a young quarterback creates a gap like this, it usually means help is coming from somewhere else. The reality is simple. Protecting C.J. Stroud is no longer just important, it is urgent. Houston has tried to grow its offensive line through the draft over the past few seasons with names like Kenyon Green, Juice Scruggs, Jarrett Patterson, and Blake Fisher entering the system. Some moments looked promising, some moments looked uncertain, and the results have been mixed overall. When a roster is chasing playoff success, mixed results are not enough. That is why the Texans front office now faces a huge decision. They must find linemen who can step in immediately and stabilize the protection around their franchise quarterback. But here's where the story takes a sharper turn. The Texans are not just looking for any offensive lineman, they are searching for someone who can anchor the edge of the line for years. Someone young, powerful, and athletic enough to grow alongside C.J. Stroud as the offense evolves. And when draft analysts started connecting the dots, one name began showing up again and again. A massive tackle from Georgia who might be exactly the kind of player Houston suddenly needs. Nobody becomes the long-term protector of C.J. Stroud by accident. The Texans know that, and that is why one name has started to quietly climb draft boards around the league: Monroe Freeling from Georgia. At first glance, he looks like a wall of muscle, standing 6'7" and weighing 315 pounds. But the shocking part is how easily he moves for someone that size. Scouts talk about his balance, his reach, the way he recovers when a pass rusher tries to beat him outside. It is rare to see that combination: power and movement, size and speed. And suddenly, Houston fans started asking the same question. Could this be the player meant to guard C.J. Stroud's blind side for the next decade? What makes the story even more interesting is where Monroe Freeling developed. Georgia plays in the SEC, which means every week he faced some of the most aggressive pass rushers in college football, defensive linemen who will soon be entering the NFL themselves. Despite that pressure, his protection numbers stayed strong, and his presence helped keep the offense stable. Coaches praised how quickly he adapted to different defensive looks, while teammates trusted him to control the edge of the line. When a tackle shows that kind of calm under pressure, teams start paying very close attention. But Houston is not the only team watching. Offensive tackles with this size and athletic profile rarely stay on the board for long during draft night. That means the Texans front office must decide how aggressive they want to be. Do they move up? Do they wait and hope the board falls their way? Or do they shift toward another strategy entirely? Because while Monroe Freeling may be one answer to Houston's protection problem, there's another path the Texans might take that could reshape the offensive line even faster. While everyone is watching the draft board, the Houston Texans might be planning something much more immediate. What if the real solution to protecting C.J. Stroud is not a young prospect, but a proven veteran already built for NFL battles? This is where the offseason rumor mill starts getting interesting. Several experienced linemen across the league are approaching free agency. And Houston suddenly has both the motivation and the resources to pursue them. The front office understands something very clearly now. When you have a quarterback like C.J. Stroud, every second he stays upright becomes an investment in the future of the franchise. One name that quickly surfaced in discussions is Wyatt Teller, a strong guard who built a reputation with the Cleveland Browns as one of the more physical interior blockers in the league. Another intriguing option is Braden Smith, a reliable tackle from the Indianapolis Colts who has years of experience facing AFC South defenses. Then there is Cade Mays, a younger center with the Carolina Panthers who still has plenty of upside left in his career. And if Houston wanted to explore a different direction, veteran center Connor McGovern has also been mentioned as a possible stabilizing presence in the middle of the offensive line. But the most fascinating possibility floating around the league is a name that carries serious weight in NFL history: Trent Williams. Even at 37 years old, the San Francisco tackle continues to dominate defensive linemen and remains one of the most respected blockers in football. If Houston ever considered a short-term push toward championship contention, a player like Trent Williams could change the entire tone of the offensive line overnight. Still, strengthening protection is only part of the Texans' plan, because while the offense evolves, another unit in Houston might be preparing to become even more dangerous. Something special has been quietly forming in the Houston secondary, and the league is starting to notice. Quarterbacks who face the Houston Texans do not just worry about the pass rush anymore. They worry about the coverage waiting behind it. Derek Stingley has grown into one of the most dangerous corners in football, reading routes like he already knows what the quarterback wants to do. Around him, players like Jalen Pitre, Kamari Lassiter, and Callan Bullock have created a group that plays fast, confident, and fearless. Under head coach D'Amico Ryans, this unit has started to look like the kind of defense that can completely flip a game in one moment. But Houston might not be finished building this group. One name that keeps surfacing around draft discussions is A.J. Halsey, a safety who began his college career with Houston before transferring to LSU. His style fits exactly what this defense loves: aggressive pursuit, sharp instincts, and a natural feel for where the football is going. At LSU, he showed that ability again and again: jumping routes, closing space quickly, and finishing plays with authority. Coaches describe him as a defender who never seems out of position, a player who reads the field and reacts without hesitation. Now imagine what happens if a player like A.J. Halsey joins a secondary that already features Derek Stingley, Jalen Pitre, Kamari Lassiter, and Callan Bullock. Suddenly the Texans would not just have a good defensive backfield, they could have one of the most complete coverage units in the entire league. Still, defense alone does not win championships. Houston knows the offense must keep evolving as well, and that brings attention to another area where the Texans might quietly be preparing their next move. While tackles and defensive backs draw most of the attention, the Texans front office knows something that casual fans often overlook. Games in the NFL are usually decided in the middle of the line. That quiet battle between guards, centers, and defensive tackles can determine whether a running play opens up or collapses before it even starts. Houston understands this reality, especially now that the offense is trying to build a stronger foundation around Stroud and the running style of David Montgomery. That is why another name has started entering Texans draft conversations, Chase Bisontis, from Texas A&M. What makes Chase Bisontis interesting is his versatility. During his college career, he played both guard and tackle, showing the kind of flexibility coaches love when shaping an offensive line. At Texas A&M, he faced some of the most physical defensive fronts in college football and learned how to anchor against powerful rushers who tried to collapse the pocket. His game is built on strength and positioning rather than flash, the type of player who may not dominate headlines, but quietly holds the structure of the offense together. Houston may also look at reinforcing the other side of that interior battle. Defensive tackle depth remains valuable for a defense that wants to control the run and pressure quarterbacks up the middle. That is where prospects like Dominique Orange from Iowa State begin entering the conversation. His role is simple but critical, absorbing blockers, controlling space, and allowing linebackers to flow freely toward the ball. Yet even with improvements along the line, there's another missing element the Texans' offense might still be searching for. Something explosive that can change a game in seconds. Sometimes an offense has power. Sometimes it has balance. But what truly scares defenses is pure speed. The kind of speed that turns a small gap into a touchdown before defenders even react. That is the element many scouts believe the Houston Texans might still be missing. Yes, David Montgomery brings strength and determination to the backfield, and Woody Marks adds versatility. But there are moments when a defense only fears one thing: a runner who can erase the entire field in seconds. And recently, one prospect has been turning heads because of exactly that ability: Mike Washington Jr. When Mike Washington Jr. stepped onto the field during the Combine, something unexpected happened. His 40-yard dash stunned scouts across the league, a blazing time that forced teams to look again at what he could become in the NFL. At 6'2" and around 220 pounds, he carries the build of a powerful runner. Yet his acceleration tells a different story. Once he finds open space, defenders quickly realize they are chasing someone who might already be gone. That rare combination of size and breakaway speed is why some analysts believe his draft stock has been climbing quickly. Now imagine that type of weapon lining up behind Stroud, sharing the backfield with David Montgomery and Woody Marks. Suddenly, the Texans' offense would have three completely different rushing styles attacking defenses in waves: power, balance, and explosive speed. Yet the biggest question still remains: how will Houston combine all these moving pieces into a roster that can truly challenge the best teams in the AFC? Because the next phase of the Texans' plan might reveal just how serious this franchise is about chasing a championship. Something bigger is forming in Houston, showing, and it is no longer just about rebuilding. The Houston Texans are quietly assembling pieces that could push them into a completely different tier of the league. When a franchise finds a quarterback like Stroud, the entire timeline accelerates. Patience disappears. Expectations rise. The front office, led by Nick Caserio and the leadership of D'Amico Ryans, now face a moment where every decision matters. Add the right lineman, reinforce the defense, balance the offense. And suddenly, the Texans are not just competing in the AFC South, they are challenging the entire conference. The offense already has a foundation that many teams spend years searching for. Stroud continues to grow as one of the most promising young quarterbacks in football, guiding drives with calm decision-making and sharp accuracy. Around him, the running presence of David Montgomery and the versatility of Woody Marks bring balance that forces defenses to respect every play call. Meanwhile, the defensive side still holds its own strength with players like Derek Stingley, Jalen Petre, Kamari Lassiter, and Kalen Bullock, giving Houston a secondary capable of turning momentum in an instant. But the real story is what could happen if all these pieces connect at the right moment. If the offensive line becomes stable, if the draft adds the final sparks of talent, and if the Texans maintain the energy that DeMeco Ryans has brought to the locker room, the entire AFC might be forced to take notice. Because the quiet truth around the league is this: Houston may not be far away from becoming one of the most dangerous teams in football. And if that transformation happens faster than expected, the rest of the NFL might soon realize the Texans are no longer chasing contenders. They are becoming one.